In 1883, Carl H. Wente purchased 47 acres of land in the Livermore Valley. This purchase is the foundation of a winemaking legacy that has spanned over 100 years. In 1912, Ernest Wente imported Chardonnay cuttings from the vines of Montpellier, France. Along with sourced cuttings from Pleasanton, he developed a hybrid that is today known as the Wente clone. In 1936, Wente introduced the first varietal Pinot Chardonnay, putting California on the map of world-class wines.
They're one of the, honestly, well, they're the oldest continually operated family-owned winery in the United States. Fourth generation, Eric, Phil, Carolyn. Fifth generation is beginning to have more responsibility, shall we say. And so Eric's children, daughters, Jordan and Nikki, you'll meet Nikki in a little bit. Eric's children, Carl and Christine. Carl's basically our COO right now, in charge of wines and vines. So they started on this property, 47 acres, 135 years ago, 1883. They now have 2,000 acres here in Livermore and another 1,000 acres down. Diurnal is the heat of the day to the cool of the night. Typically 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon, 4 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So how this works is this is the San Joaquin Valley over here. San Joaquin Valley grows a lot of food crops. It warms up about 10 degrees warmer per day than Livermore Valley. So as that air rises, that pulls in this marine layer from the bay or from the ocean, and it comes right down 580, which is called the Hayward Pass, or right up Niles Canyon, and you can see that those two converge right where we are. So we get real nice ripening days, 85, 95 degrees during the growing season. And then at night, this cooling effect comes right into where we are, which is right here. So we get this diurnal shift. We could be 95 during the day and let's say 55 at night. That's a 40-degree diurnal shift. That's good for wine grapes. Okay? And the same thing is true down there. If you've ever marked all this coastal area, Monterey, Santa Cruz, and so forth, in the summertime is shrouded in fog. It's actually wet, drippy wet, all in this forest in here. And Mark Twain once said the worst winter I ever had was the summer in San Francisco. And that's the phenomenon, is that area heats up and it brings in the marine layer. So that area down there is the last to get the marine layer in the morning and in the evening, and the first to burn off in the night. I mean in the morning, the other way around. So you get nice, warm, east-facing vineyards that dry off early in the morning and get ripening. The fog burns back to about here, and then in the morning and the evening it comes rolling back in again and cools them off. So that's one feature that why these are really super wine-growing regions. The other one is soil. It's a wine vine, and it kind of grows like ivy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the strongest arm or tentacle and I'm going to pull it up into what's called a grow tube. It's about 18 inches tall. It does two things. It makes it grow straight up, and it protects it from the deer and squirrel and so forth that would love to get that new lettuce. That's fresh crop. So we cut off everything else. So I'm making it grow a trunk, and if anything pops out on that trunk, I clips it off. So a trunk, I get about 3.5 feet tall. When I get a next strongest tentacle, I lay it out on the trellis, and that's called a cordon. So trunk and cordon. That's about 3 years, 2.5 years. We don't get a crop until basically the 3rd or 4th year, depending on what they want the vine to do. But they have to train it like this first. And then the hardwood is called a spur. So we have trunk, cordons, and spurs, and the spurs are purposely spaced out about 6 inches or a hand width apart, so that they don't crowd each other, they don't fight for sunlight, they don't have a hard time getting breezes through there to clear out the moist and mildew and all those kinds of things. And so this is on purpose. So about 3 years to get to this place. Then all of the new growth that's above the spurs is annual. So this vine is just before harvest.
Go outside and get some nice natural lighting.
Okay, so here's the clusters. So the way we train the vines is no more than 2 shoots or canes per spur. Don't ask the plant to do too much.
So just give you a little bit of background, we have some small lot series, which this rosé that we made is from our small lot series. So this is going to be the hand pick type of wine here, and this is even more elevated than our small lot series. This is our nth degree. So we go to the ends of the world to make this wine the perfect bottle. We'll do multiple passes through the vineyard, shoot thinning, shoot positioning, dropping fruit on the ground multiple times to make sure that we're getting, first we drop to make sure every cluster is situated by itself, not touching any other clusters. And then we'll go back when we're starting to see color change, veraison in the vineyard, and we'll see which ones are lagging, which ones are too far ahead, and we'll drop anything too far ahead and drop anything that's lagging behind on color change so that we're getting very even distribution of ripening. So that's kind of what goes into these kind of wines here. In our nth degree series, we make a Chardonnay, a Pinot Noir, a Merlot, a Syrah, and a Cabernet Sauvignon. So those are the varieties we kind of focus on for our nth degree series. We have a lot of different wines in our small lot series, and then we have our higher producers. So when we can, and these are both single vineyard wines. So this comes from our Riva Ranch Vineyard in Arroyo Seco, Monterey. Monterey County, I should say. And this one comes from our Charles Wetmore Vineyard, which is just down over by where the golf course is, off of Arroyo Road. So this one is a Cabernet that is usually about 89% Cab, and this year, or I guess last year, 2018, it's actually looking like it might be 100% Cabernet, which doesn't always happen because in this single vineyard we do have Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Petit Syrah. So we kind of use those three varieties to blend in to make it the perfect balance, and sometimes we find that co-fermenting when we're picking, so we'll add some Malbec into the fermenter and it comes out really beautiful, really great tannin extraction, really well balanced wine when we do that. But last year we were finding that we liked the wines better when they were fermented alone. So it just kind of depends. Every year's a little different on this one, but this one's always 100% Chardonnay. You know what you're gonna get. Same bottle every year. And if we change it, we get fighting people coming to Wente with their fists raised. Why is my Riva Ranch different? Buttery from the oak, but that tropical fruit comes through almost to the point of banana for me. And really why we can get so much oak in here is because this fruit is grown in Arroyo Seco, Monterey County, and in Arroyo Seco, Monterey, our Chardonnay isn't picked until middle to end of October, which is unlike any other region in California. Livermore we pick in September. In Sonoma, you're picking sometimes in August and September. So getting that extra month of hang time really allows the fruit to develop, get really rich fruit flavors, and then you can add on that oak without losing all the fruit. So when you're tasting this, you're still getting a lot of fruit, but you're getting that richness of oak where you wouldn't really be able to have so much richness of oak if you didn't have that fruit to balance it out and make it a really well-balanced, easy drinking wine. So what I've just poured you guys, I should probably pour myself.
Actually, we saw a really good video about that. We saw a video on YouTube where it showed that, and it showed the different wines they're making now. I think one is Spur.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the whip.
A really nice video.
Yeah. So what you're drinking now is the Charles Wetmore. So this is one of our single vineyard wines as well. So Riva Ranch and Charles Wetmore, both single vineyard, produced from Cabernet, and I'm not sure what vintage this is. 16. So 16, I believe, is a Malbec Cabernet Petit Syrah blend. So 89% Cabernet Sauvignon, I believe, is the number, and then the rest is Malbec Petit Syrah. So in this wine, to me, it's a really blue fruit. It's like almost a leaner style Cabernet because we do have a pretty cool climate in that area. It's lower elevation, really rocky soil, so you're getting purity of fruit from that rocky soil in this vineyard, and it just turns out to be a really beautiful wine. Texture on your palate, blackberry, deep fruit, you know, maybe a little sandalwood or tobacco in there, but just super, super soft tannin, very velvety, lush mouthfeel, elegance, you know, that's kind of That's the whole motto of the end, is just elegance and balance, trying to get it there to be just exactly what your palate wants to feel. Not overly tannic, not too big, not too bold, but beautiful.
So what would you eat with something like this? What would this go well with?
That sip that I just took made me really want bolognese, spaghetti bolognese. I mean, I think that would be excellent. Even a nice veal or steak, something like that would be really, really excellent with this.
An exclusive estate vineyard, Murrieta's Well is one of California's oldest wineries. This historic wine estate began growing grapes from cuttings of famed vines from France. Louis Mel purchased the land that is today Murrieta's Well in 1884. The second family to till these vineyards was the Wente family, an original California winemaking family. Ernest Wente bought the land from his fellow winemaker Louis Mel in 1933. The land, vineyards, and winery has been owned by the Wente family since that day. Today, the grapes of Murrieta's Well are cultivated in the various climate nuances on the estate and produce a variety of premium wines, including a Cabernet Franc, Chardonnay, Merlot, and other diverse vintages.
It's hand harvested, and it is made the old-fashioned French-style way, which is called sur lie, if you're familiar with that. And that means the fermentation and the aging is done all in the barrel. And this is Kathleen, and she's going to help out a little bit today. And this is a little appetizer for you. And this is a spring fritter, and it's a great appetizer if you don't mind. Here you go, Paul. It goes great with the Sauvignon Blanc.
A little bit of cream there, because that really makes a big difference.
Special. When Louis Mel opened this winery, and I'll set this back and we'll walk over here. When he opened up this winery in 1883, he was able to bring 3 varietals back. And one of the varietals from Bordeaux, France was the Sauvignon Blanc. And these are clones off the original vines from Chateau Yem. And so these are French varietals and clones off of them for many, many years. So it's been about 135 years when this building was built, by the way. And this is the original winery, and those are original walls, by the way, in 1883. And we'll be walking around the building a little bit.
Yeah.
You're on one of the original vineyards. We have 5 vineyards here, and you're actually on the Louis Mel vineyard, and I'll show you a map in a little bit. But we have 5 vineyards here and about 500 acres and about 480 planted. So we'll be walking around back a little bit and showing you around. And the legend is, if you know a little bit about California, there was a Joaquin Murrieta who was kind of a Robin Hood kind of guy that you would come up from Southern California, Mexico, and he would come up and rob horses and things like that. But the legend is he always brought his horses here to rest the night because it had fresh water, and it kind of came to be named Murrieta's Well. And when we reopened this winery in 1990, and we're going to be celebrating our 30th anniversary here soon, when they reopened it, they said, what do we want to call it? And it kind of was determined to be Murrieta's Well. Now again, that water is a natural artesian well, and it is a pipe in the ground, and the water is coming up. And we did build a drain, and it is draining off into the creek. So, but if not, there would be a pond here, basically. Okay, so just a little bit about the winery, a little bit of the history that Heather mentioned. And I'll show you the tasting room. But this is, again, a photograph of Louis Mel, who actually founded the property. And Ernest Wente is the one that actually purchased it from him years ago. But here's Phil, his grandson, I believe, who Phil and Sergio was our first winemaker here in 1990 when they reopened it. And Sergio actually has a Portuguese, Spanish descent, a Chilean, and some of the varietals here we grow is a little unusual. We have Touriga Nacional, we have Susal, Tempranillo, some Spanish and Portuguese varietals, which makes the property a little unique. So, and this is our current winemaker, Robbie, and he's had 3 vintages, I believe.
This is 19 is his 4th vintage.
4th, yeah, 19 will be 4th vintage, yeah. So, and he lives up in Howell Mountain in the Napa area. Staying about right in the center, and you're looking backwards, obviously that's the Sakal vineyard, and we have a couple other vineyards all through here. And those are the 5.
This is our Rivoli vineyard, which is across the street here. This is our Ernest vineyard. This is where our Chardonnay is grown primarily, and this is our Hayes vineyard, which has the most varieties that we plant here. So as Rob was mentioning, that we have over 20 varieties that we grow here on the estate. Most of those varieties, as far as variety is concerned, of varieties, are all in the Hayes vineyard, which has a lot of sloping hills. Has also got one of our highest hillsides. So
Elevation and everything. What's really special, this area right here, which we just toured recently, has the Heritage Clone Chardonnay. And if you may know this, about 80% of all Chardonnays in California, those vines came from our clones right here. The Wente clone, which I think is 001. I think they call it number 1, but I'm not so sure. I read that once. But anyways, it's the Wente Heritage clone. So we do this for anyone that would like a food and wine pairing experience. And we do this every day, and it's always 11 o'clock. And the menu does change, but you have the wines and the menus here, or excuse me, the wine and the food items. And you'll see the very first one you already had, and that was the Sauvignon Blanc. And why I'm going to set this up, if you don't mind me sharing, the first wine on your left, we're going to try our dry orange muscat. And I'm going to share with you, like, for example, white wines have acidity and red wines have tannins. Everyone kind of knows that. But what a lot of people don't realize, the acidity cleanses your palate and tannins build on your palate. Actually opposite, exactly opposite. So when you taste these wines today with this food, I want you to taste, bite, taste. That's what I want you to try with a couple things. And here comes your items. And then you're going to experience the wine before the food effect, and then after the food effect. And again, you'll see the prong is aligned with your dry orange muscat, and the fennel slaw is with our rosé. You'll see you have our famous Zarzuela and our Malbec. And if I may, Zarzuela is a house specialty here. It's an Iberian blend. It has Tempranillo from Spain, and it has the Touriga Nacional and Susal that we talked about earlier from Portugal. So that is our Iberian blend. And I mentioned upstairs with that our original winemaker was Chilean, which has Spanish-Portuguese descent, and he wanted to represent his background. And that, to this day, we still grow that just for wine club members only. We can't even sell that to the general public. We don't make enough of it, to be honest with you. Really fantastic. What we're known for is blending. So again, this is about 92% Malbec, but it has Cab and Petit Verdot in it. And this has the 3 varietals in it, Zarzuela. What reacts to tannins, most people don't know. And chemistry-wise, tannins react to fat and protein. So the reason why you're going to have lamb, okay, which is protein, and obviously it has fat in it too, your tannins, I want you to do a taste bite taste, and I want you to tell me if you like the wine better before, after, or both, after the chemical reaction, okay? You know grams, they have a 10, 20, 30, 40 years, tawnies. Those are not actual years, by the way, those are target years or averages. Like there might be a 39, 40, 41, where they call them target years. That's the legal side of it, where rubies are always less than 1 year and then released. Young, fresh, fruit forward. And again, that's the difference between a ruby being young and a tawny is aged many years. A vintage is also somewhat of a ruby, but it's aged in a bottle, where tawnies are aged in a barrel. So as soon as you have this, a ruby, but they'll not say a ruby, they'll say this is a 2005 port. Then they're more interested in the vintage, being that the Portuguese government said this is a vintage year. So they accent that this is a vintage, it was the best year ever, and it was bottled in that year and aged through the bottle. So a little bit different styles, and a Cojeda is a little bit different.